So the new Captain America movie, Brave New World, starring Anthony Mackie, after, Falcon Winter Soldier, is coming out soon. And since when Falcon Winter Soldier came out on Disney Plus, I went back and talked about the two Captain America TV movies starring Red Brown from 1979, which was supposed to start a Captain American TV series. You can watch more on that on my video. And I rewatched those movies again just for this review, and look, I kind of like them as a guilty pleasure for the time, and just appreciate the corniness of it. The first Captain America, though, it has its very boring moments, and it really should have been heavily cut down because there's just too many shots of just nothing going on in the third act. But the second one is a lot of fun. And that's what I recommend to a lot of people. Just go ahead and watch the second one. You don't really need to have watched the first movie. Second one's better because it's got Christopher Lee. He's not in it that much, but his moments are pretty cool, and it's a fun. It's like Death Too Soon. I think just gives you a better sense of what would have happened. What an episode of the show would have been. So highly recommend you watch this. But today we're going to be talking about the 1990 Captain America film directed by Albert Pyun. Now, I should just start off. So Captain America, they had been trying to make a movie after the the TV show failed. Universal, who else, the people who made those two TV movies, wanted to make one with Jeff Bridges as Captain America and Peter Fonda as the Red Skull, and they would have tried to include Falcon, Bucky, and Zola in there as well. Don't know much about it, if there was ever a script or something. Whatever really happened, and then Captain America, though, they Universal sold off the rights and gave it to the Cannon Group, with their rights to make a Spider-Man movie as well. I've talked about Cannon before. Very, very interesting company, and I should talk. So yeah, they were really trying to make a Spider-Man movie happening. They had multiple directors do it. It was going to be Toby Hooper, I think it was first. He dropped out. I think that was back when they thought Spider-Man was a horror creature.
I don't think Menachem Golan particularly knew what Spider-Man was.
His interpretation of the comic book character was a little bit different than the reality of it.
Menachem's understanding was that it was a Spider-Man.
Spider-Man was a person who turned into a spider, like a werewolf turns into a wolf.
But Stanley said, no, you cannot do that. And then they changed it again, and I think Joseph Zito, who directed Friday the 13th Final Chapter and Invasion USA for Cannon Films, he was going to direct, but I think he dropped out.
And he was as excited about the project as we were. He fought for it. They were in active pre-production for probably a year or more with Joe. And it came to a point where Cannon had also optioned the Superman character from the Salkinds and Masters of the Universe from Mattel. As a result, because they didn't have all the money in the world, they cut down Spider-Man's budget from about $20 million, which is pretty healthy, down to about $7 million. And after having put a year and a half of his life in it, Joe Zito just threw up his hands. I can't make that picture for $7 million.
And then it was going to be Albert Pyun who was going to direct the Spider-Man movie. And then while he was doing the Spider-Man movie, he was also going to direct the sequel to their Masters of the Universe film with Dolph Lundgren. And that also fell through. And so I should quickly take a pause from right here, and I should need to just quickly talk about Albert Pyun. Albert Pyun was this, he's very, he passed away recently, sadly. He's known for his schlocky B movies, B movie work, and Captain America is one of his most famous. We'll get into that later. But I know people really love his first movie, Swords and Sorcery, I think that's the title. I put the poster up anyway, so I don't know. People love that movie, and people like his second film, which I forgot the name of, which has music in it. made like after Captain America, he would go on to like make movies for like Charles Band with the Full Moon Company. So like that's what he's best known for, and he didn't care. He just loved making movies, no matter how much money. Didn't care. He just wanted to create these stories and put them on the screen. I gotta give him respect to him. And I wish I could have seen more of his work, because I've only seen a few. I mean, I've only seen two. The movie we're talking about today, and then Cyborg, the movie he made the year before this. Now, the thing about Cyborg that I think a lot of people might know is that it used a lot of sets from the Spider-Man production and the Masters of the Universe production. But I don't know about the Spider-Man. The He-Man stuff, I think they used a lot of it because I think the plan for the Masters of the Universe sequel was going to be like Skeletor, who was revealed in the post-credit scene that he was still alive, would have come back to Earth and like just ruined it more and just make it an apocalyptic wasteland. And He-Man, I think, would have just come back to Earth and stopped it. And I think that's where you can see a lot of the Cyborg connections with the, the apocalyptic future of it. And I think, look, so Cyborg, like, it had a cool premise of a movie. Like, it was about a guy who had to, like, escort this person to, who had, like, a cure for, like, the illness that caused the apocalypse. But a gang doesn't want to do it. I think that was, like, actually the film's original name. It's going to be called Slinger, because that's what Jean-Claude Van Damme plays, like a slinger, someone who, like, escorts people throughout the apocalypse. And I think, like, look, it's cool. Like, I thought the best part really is, like, the production design and the costume. It's all cool. It was the 1980s. Everyone was kind of ripping off Mad Max because it was cheap to do. And that stuff was kind of cool, but overall, like, it didn't work for me in execution. So there's my quick review of Cyborg. Before Cannon Films, like, all together, like, fell apart, like, Menahem Golan left, and he would start up 21st Century Film Corporation, and allow to carry over the rights to the Captain America character and Spider-Man, because I think they were going to still do that Spider-Man movie, but again, it never really happened.
When it was apparent that 21st Century was starting to run into some financial issues, I said, well, why don't you do Captain America? He thought about it and he said, well, I couldn't come up with a huge budget for it, like Superman. And I said, but he's not Superman, he's a regular guy. And if you can make this movie, you could probably save your company.
Some films I'll just to kind of mention for fun that 20th Century Films produced was the Night of the Living Dead remake by Tom Savini, and it starred Tony Todd in it, the late Tony Todd. They also made the fifth Death Wish movie. They finished that franchise up over there. They made a Phantom of the Opera movie that starred Robert Englund as the Phantom, and it also co-starred Alex Hyde White, the Mr. Fantastic, and Bill Nye. Very early Bill Nye performance. And the last one, the most interesting one, was a film called The Forbidden Dance, a Lambada movie that rivaled the Cannon film Lambada. That was a thing. The Forbidden Dance starred Anna Haring from Mulholland Drive, and then Lambada starred Melora Harding from The Office, Jan.
They started making these competing movies, like two competing Lambada movies.
That was their next great idea as a team. And now when they split up, it was who could make that movie faster.
Yoram had a script and was already into pre-production. After all of this, the two pictures were released at the same time.
The limousines from the two groups came to the same theater.
I don't know that it could happen anywhere. It has a surreal quality even for Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's one of the most famous stories from the company. So, like, it's not a huge list of people who were considered, but people who were considered for Captain America was Arnold Schwarzenegger, which, I mean, now he's way too big. He doesn't have that accent. And, like, look, this was like late 80s, like early 90s. Like, this is like Arnold at his peak, and he would not be doing like schlock like this at this point. Dolph Lundgren, which, like, yeah, I mean, he's blonde like Captain America, but I mean, I don't know how the accent would have worked. I mean, I don't think it really worked for him as the Punisher in that movie. but I've never seen that movie. And then Val Kilmer was offered the part, but he turned it down to do The Doors, which I know people don't like, but my dad said he loved it. So the whole thing was that Pune wanted 2 actors to play Steve Rogers. I think he wanted Matt Salinger to play him before he got the super soldier serum, and then Howie Long was gonna was actually gonna be Captain America, which would have been probably throughout the entire movie. But Marvel insisted that it'd be one actor to play him. And I think Pune wanted Captain America to use a tactical black suit in the film to reflect his appearance in the comics at the time. But this was rejected by Marvel because I guess, just for the marketing sense, just to let people know that, oh, this is a Captain America movie. But anyway, Matt Salinger, they still got him to be Steve Rogers throughout. And yes, everyone knows he was going to be, everyone knows he was J.D. Salinger's son of, Catcher in the Rye. That's a big thing we gotta mention. Everyone knows that. You got Ronnie Cox, who was in a lot of movies at that time, mainly, Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, and then RoboCop. And now he's the president, and it's hard for me to see him as a good guy when he's always kind of like a smug bad guy in RoboCop. Scott Pollan is the Red Skull, who they gave a backstory, a different backstory, where he's an Italian boy who was really smart, and then the Nazis wanted him to be part of the soldier, the superpower. And I guess the kid aged fast from being 11, 12 to a 30-year-old. I don't think about it too much. Ned Beatty, who plays the president's friend, not his first time. He did DC, and I guess he wanted to make that switch to Marvel, so he's one of the first actors to do it. Bill Mummy, who was on Lost in Space, he's in this movie as a character called Lieutenant Fleming. And then you have Francesca Neri as Red Skull's daughter. I don't know if the Red Skull ever had kids in. I don't know if he ever had kids in the comics, but he has a daughter in this with no birth defects, even though she doesn't. It's whatever. And then the 2 actors that we got to talk about is how it stars both Darren McGavin and Melinda Dillon. Melinda Dillon plays Steve's mother, and then McGavin plays the older Bill Mummy, General Fleming, who was actually a bad guy with the Red Skull. And obviously everyone knows they're both the parents in A Christmas Story, and they're in this movie. It's very weird that casting happened. And another weird A Christmas Story connection is that the actor who plays young Ned Beatty back in the 40s looks exactly like Ralphie. It is so weird. Very, very weird connections to A Christmas Story. That's all I can say.
Did he have a trident? No, we didn't have a trident. Okay, so it wasn't submarine, and it couldn't have been Human Torch. It would have blown up the rocket before it could land.
So this movie, like most comic book movies, had a lot of trouble in production.
Sometimes on a film, lightning strikes, and for no particular reason that anybody can understand, everything works. And sometimes the dark lightning strikes, and for no reason that anyone can understand, nothing works.
We had to cut out all the action. And then towards the end of the film, we shot days with no film in the cameras. We just pretended like we had film, and then we would say that the film that night went to the lab and it was ruined, and we had to come back the next day, shoot the same thing over again. We had more, suddenly we had film, we had just enough short ends to make it through.
There's not much you can do if you can't afford to continue shooting. They had to cut things together with what they had, rather than say, let's do the entire sequence as it's written in the script. And that hurt.
And when it came to editing, the studio kind of botched it. And ever since, there's been a lot of attempts to make different cuts. like Albert Pune had a director's cut, but to be honest, it wasn't really like I don't think it was like an official cut, because like you can't find like a proper DVD. Like if anything, it's like a rare bootleg copy. But there is this cut of the film that's on YouTube that has not been taken down, and it's like the Captain America Extended Red Skull edition, and like in the bottom link or in the description, like the guy talks about how like the director's cut isn't that great just because of how there's like too much pointless flashbacks. So he just took all like those deleted scenes that made it in the director's cut, and I think put it in there. And I mean, like you can kind of see why they cut. Like, so in the part where Captain America's on his first mission to take down the Red Skull, walking through the woods, there's like a party he comes across, like I want to say like a resistance, but then they just like they disappear. So like that makes sense why you want to cut that, because it's just like it's not needed. There's there's a few good scenes, I want to say, like in the when he's just like in California, like realizing that everything is just like changed. Mainly I like the scene where he meets up with Colonel Lewis, the guy he worked with through the Super Soldier program. Great scene with him meeting, he meets up with him, and he's just like, the Colonel's like, everything has just been shit after World War II, nothing's been worth it. That I really liked that scene. That's like the one deleted scene I would have kept in, because like there's like another, because like the problem is like there's like when Captain America he hilariously escapes from Ned Beatty's car, and then he kind of like goes off, and then it's him like realizing the world is changing before he meets up with his girlfriend. It's like a montage, and it's like, okay, it's like fine, it's stupid, but it's fine. But then in the extended cut, like there's another montage, and it's just like, okay, we didn't really need another montage. And like also watching it, it's like very blurry. Like I really couldn't even like sit through it, because there's the regular theatrical cut that's also free on YouTube, that it's like perfect HD quality. Because most of the deleted extended stuff is in the middle. Well, there is like one, I gotta go back. There is a part when Steve like meets up, young Bernie. They have like a really good scene in the extended cut, because like it's just weird in the theatrical cut. But I liked the one in the extended cut. So there's only like 2 deleted scenes I would have just like left in, but everything else it's a little too much like a filler. But when I was watching it, I got so tired of like looking at this movie with like the graininess. Just got too dark. I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna just watch I just went and watched like the theatrical cut just for the third half, like third act part when they're in Italy. That's all I watched, because there wasn't really that much deleted stuff at that part. So I don't know like which cut to recommend. Like I would just say like just watch like the theatrical cut, and then like watch that extended cut just for like those deleted scenes. That's just my best recommendation. Alright, so how do I really feel about this movie? Well, it's really not that good, but like it's hard to say like how low I put it on a Marvel ranking. I mean, it's not as bad as Elektra. That's just a really terrible Marvel movie that I just really hate. I think, look, some of the issues are just this, like, mostly the studio interference, but, like, even the script, like, to begin with, isn't that, like, great. I want to say it is a little similar to The Winter Soldier on how, like nothing has really, or something like how nothing has really changed after everything, he did in the past. Because in this movie, the whole point is like, Captain America, he failed fighting the Red Skull, and he wakes up in 1990 realizing all these horrible things that happened, and how people are conspirizing that the Red Skull is behind the murders of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Martin Luther King. And that's a little weird as like a Because like the whole, I don't know, like he's talking about how he's created like this Illuminati Hydra. Like maybe it's Hydra, but they don't say. If anything, like it's just like his own mafia thing that he's like terrorist organization. Which, like, to be honest, like that's kind of cool for an idea. But I don't think there's like they don't do enough with it. And like the Red Skull is like, you know, he's only the Red Skull for that one scene. And throughout the movie, he just looks like a generic Bond villain with bad sunburn. So it's not that fun. But like, this is where I kind of saw a lot of, I was seeing a little bit of like a lot of connections to like Cyborg. Like Van Damme's character has this like, you know, lost the battle to this villain and seeks like revenge or like, you know, or redemption. And that's what that's what this whole thing is. I think it's interesting. It's about like Captain America coming to a world that's like environmentally on the brink of collapse, because like that's what the President Kimball is trying to do, and Captain America is like his whole point, like he needs to come back and save the day for good. Which like, yeah, I think like all that is kind of interesting, but his just like, well, number one, his costume is too silly, and like I said, like the whole point is that he was gonna be like just the regular Steve Rogers, like the weak Steve Rogers. Because the only problem is like he has polio because he has like a limp. But like you never really like he's never that convincing though. Like when he has the serum, because like he's just like I don't know, he's not as strong, and like even when he's in the suit, like he just looks so skinny. He's like this compared to like both like Red Brown and, you know, Chris Evans. They're very buff when you see them as Captain America, but he's just a very skinny guy. And I don't think like Matt Salinger I don't know if he's like a bad actor or not, because I do think that scene with him and like the older Colonel is a very good scene, and like his acting is great. So I think he has potential, or maybe he's just not that capable of it. And I don't know, it's also like they have this weird thing with him and his girlfriend's daughter. They don't really like say if they're in love or not, but like it shows some weird affections. It's very weird. The character's kind of weird as well, but overall, like it's a film that I can't act so surprised that it's by Canon Films, because of how they made their movies. It's a very like it's a rough movie. I mean, like what it's trying to do, it didn't really like accomplish it well.
I went to a screening. It was not a happy experience for me. I was comatose when it was over, and several friends had to physically carry me out of the screening room and take me to a sushi bar next door and pour sake down my throat to revive me.
And it famously, like, it didn't really come to the United States in theaters for some weird reason. It's a weird movie. This movie is just...
Auf eine Art und Weise verändert durch eine Erfindung unserer Wissenschaft. Das arme Tier, wie Sie sehen, werden es zweimal klüger und zweimal schneller.
But look, this was still part of like Marvel's weird years. And at this point, this was like, they were kind of still shaking off the whole like, doing, TV shows. This is like after they, had those two Hulk movies that tried to like, start a Thor show and a Daredevil show, and it didn't work. The year before this, you had The Punisher, which like this movie just went right to video in the United States and only had like a few European releases. And after this, you had The Notorious, Roger Corman, Fantastic Four, that never got released. And like, it was like really until Blade when they actually had like a big blockbuster movie from them. So this is still like, this movie came out at a weird part for Marvel. And you can't really be like, can't be so harsh, because like that's why I don't like Elektra, because that's like after when Marvel was like seen as a company that can like make good movies, or like studios can make like good movies with like good decent sized budgets and actors. So this movie isn't very perfect, but I'm very like, I just don't really know that much to say, because like a lot of people have said so much about this movie. Like that's why I'm not really even talking about a lot of like the laugh out loud moments, because everyone talked about them. So I just wanted to like just talk about the scenes and like the weird character stuff. But at the end, we've gotten pretty good Captain America movies with the Chris Evans movies, and I mean, I hope this new Captain America movie is good, even though I'm not hearing like the test screenings weren't that great, but whatever. What are you gonna do?
What we and the actors really pulled off was quite a miracle, that they didn't bail on the thing. So I consider it to be a real achievement, something that I'm proud of more than embarrassed by.
But thank you very much, guys, for watching this video. Hope to talk more Marvel movies. I will be talking about that Roger Corman Fantastic Four when the new one comes out, so I'm excited to talk about that. But anyway, thank you guys for watching.